Hello guys, my name is Gavin, and this will be a video on how to create random recoil for a weapon in the Blender game engine. I will be using some Python, and I'm just going to get started. So to start off, let's double click the A button until everything is selected and hit X and delete. Hit 1 to go into front view and do spacebar and then add a camera like this. Let's drag this camera back like this and do spacebar and then add a cube. Hit S to scale this cube down like this and go from object mode to edit mode. I'm going to hit S and Y to scale it on the Y-axis, hit W to subdivide, and W subdivide a few more times. Hit 7 to go on the top view, and let's select the face select mode right here. I'm going to right click on this right here, so shift and right click these 4 corners, or these 4 faces, and hit E to extrude them. Alright, let's now just right click on maybe these bottom faces right here. I'm just going to hit E and extrude them down. So it kind of looks like a gun, even though it's really simplistic, but it'll work for now. I actually might make this a little bit smaller of a transition. That'll work. Alright, next let's go back into edit mode. And with these bottom faces selected, let's do mesh, snap, cursor to selected, go into object mode and do object, transform, origin to 3D cursor. And we can see that the object is now going to rotate like this. Now, what we're going to do is I'm just going to hit 0 to go into our camera view. Maybe scale this down just a little bit. I'm going to drag the gun maybe right to the middle of our camera like this. So if we hit P, it should look like this. Okay. What we now want to do is I'm going to drag this up like this. Drag this panel up. Set the start animation keyframe to 0. The ends to, let's say, 10. And let's set the animation keyframe right here to 0. All right. When it's at when our gun is selected to or set to the normal view, or pretty much just aimed but not recoiled, what we want to do is do I and then lock rotation. Actually, I'm just gonna hit Control Z on that, and I'm just gonna shift and right click on our camera and hit Control P to parent it. And then with our gun selected, let's do I and then lock rotation. Now let's go to frame 10, like this. And let's rotate this gun back a lot, so like a fair amount like this, and do I and then lock rotation. So if we play it, we see it's going to be a pretty big recoil, but that's what's going to make this useful for our game. Sorry. And let's now go from defaults to game logic and go from Blender render to Blender game. Hit 0 to go into our camera view, and let's add an integer game property for our gun, and I'm just going to name this to keyframe like this. And set it at 0 because that's the animation keyframe. That's pretty much gonna be, well, it's gonna be what you use to determine the animation keyframe at the time. All right, so let's add an always sensor on our gun. Then add a mouse sensor. This mouse sensor will be named click. I'm gonna select tap right here and minimize this. Add a Python controller and connect it. And the last thing we're gonna do is add an actuator. Change it from play to property. Put the cube action in here. And let's put keyframe like this. Drag this over here like this, so our always sensor is now connected to our action actuator. Alright. Inside of it, let's now create a script by doing templates, Python, and then game logic simple. Let's drag this out, if I can grab it, and delete the portion that I've highlighted. Hit Control and scroll up on your mouse to make your text larger. I'm just going to rename this to weaponscripts.py and add this right here. Now, since we want to actually randomize the animation, randomize the recoil, let's import random from the BGE, or import the random module. And what we're going to do is define our click sensor by doing click is going to equal count.sensors click. What we're now going to do is have if click.positive and own keyframe is equal to 0. What we're going to do is have a variable named keyframe. Actually, I'll rename this as frame. It's going to equal random.randint between, let's say, 4 and 10. So it's going to equal a random integer between 4 and 10. And what we're going to do is have own keyframe is going to equal frame. Next, what we're going to do is have if own keyframe is greater than 0, own keyframe is going to minus equal 1. Now, if we were to hit play now, we can see every time I click, it's going to randomize that recoil just a little bit. And if we were to print the frame to the console, frame like this, it's actually what this is actually doing is having it so since our keyframe animation or our keyframe integer right here is gonna be what's equal to the sorry, I'm explaining this poorly. The action keyframe right here is going to be equal to the keyframe integer. So if we set it to a random integer like this, we can see it's not really recoiling as much, or it's recoiling a lot. And if I do window and then toggle system console, you can see that every time I click, it's going to be printing a different thing. So like 4, 6, 10, 9, 10, 9, stuff like that. And you can see it's randomizing it a little bit. Alright, so I know this is kind of a weird example for the recoil, but this is kind of how you can randomize it. It's not the best way of doing it, but it's one way I could definitely see of making it. And alright, I hope you guys found this useful.